Hello and welcome to Fintech Chatter, brought to you by Tier 1 People, leaders in Fintech executive search. I'm your host, Dexter Cousins. In episode 97, I'm joined by Joyce, CEO of Sympli. It's hard to believe that Australian e-settlements is a monopoly. Sympli is a collaboration between ASX and InfoTrack to disrupt the monopoly and build a next-generation e-settlements platform that delivers healthy competition, reliability, security, and value to the industry. Philip also shares his journey from Big Four bank to Fintech and has sage advice for anyone contemplating the switch. But before we chat to Philip, we've got a Chief Information Officer opportunity with a well-funded payments startup that has significant backing. You'll get to take the business from startup to scale-up, work with a top-class CEO, own the technology strategy, and provide leadership to a growing team. This is a business with genuine unicorn potential. To find out more, message us at info@tier1people.com or go to the Tier 1 People LinkedIn jobs page. Philip, welcome to the show.
Hey Dexter, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Pleasure. It makes a change for us not to be talking about the relative issues of our football clubs. So, and given that yours is now the richest in the world, I feel quite worried.
Mate, and managerless.
And you're even happier about that.
I am, I am very happy. But we'll not go into that. I'll probably get hate mail.
More hate mail.
More hate mail. Well, thanks so much for joining me on the show today. Look, I thought it might be a good idea for you to first of all share with our listeners a little bit about Sympli and what you do.
Sure thing. Yeah. So Sympli, really, we exist to deliver simplicity to property settlement. So by that, I mean we've built a network connected to banks, to land registries, and to revenue offices that allows us to support people buying and selling houses. So we're the magic behind the scenes that moves the title of the property and the money. So therefore, we're really helping banks and lawyers and conveyancers support everyday Australians buy and sell houses. So we're looking to disrupt this market and become the partner of choice for the property community.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about the industry? I mean, I wasn't aware that kind of specific way of paying or exchanging. I would have thought it would have just been a bank transfer. Can you tell us a little bit about the kind of the history and legacy of that space and kind of where Sympli's come into it?
Yeah, of course. Well, interesting, in Australia, probably world leaders of kind of digitizing the property settlement process. So, but it happens, it's not very visible to everyday Australians when you buy and sell a house. You probably do that through your lawyer or your conveyancer. But behind the scenes, what happens is, sitting digitally in a land registry is the title of the property, and then the mortgage sits at the bank or banks if you're transferring. And then somehow we've got to, in a secure way, move those simultaneously when people buy and sell a house. So over the last kind of 10 years, Australia's moved from a predominantly paper-based process where lawyers would meet in a room and exchange documents and bank checks. And now a lot of this is facilitated nationally, albeit not in all jurisdictions just yet, but all done digitally.
Okay.
And why we're in this space is there's currently only one kind of key network that provides this service. So we're really the disruptor here to take what we've seen from and heard from customers about the inefficiencies in the process, albeit it's an interesting, because I'm sure some of your guests have touched on this. Just being digital alone doesn't necessarily lead to great customer outcomes. So we believe that we've got an offer here that gives a better experience, more seamless, more secure, and delivers efficiencies to lawyers and conveyancers and banks. And then ultimately, by doing that, we're giving a better experience for people buying and selling houses.
So let me get this right. Up until Sympli came on the scene, there's only been one company offering this settlement service?
That's right. I mean, look, the PEXA are the current key provider in the market, so they are really the outcome of government mandating e-conveyancing. So they've been the kind of beneficiary.
Phil, sorry to interrupt, but isn't the Aussie housing market worth $9 trillion?
Yeah, this market is worth an incredible amount. So to have only one provider here, I don't need to do the economics.
I am shocked. I am absolutely shocked.
Yeah, so I mean, we've entered it in because number one, we think we can make a difference. So we think we can make a difference to the process, which ultimately impacts probably everyone at some point in their life. Everyone wants to buy and sell a house. And so, no market really flourishes with just one provider. So whilst it's digital, we believe, and we hear from kind of lawyers and conveyancers, we hear from banks that this can be done better.
Yeah.
So kind of why we exist is to bring that about. And settlement's really at the end of the process. So, after you've looked for a house, after you've engaged with a lawyer, after you've exchanged contracts, but it's probably one of the most important step, isn't it? You want to have kind of certainty and confidence that happens, when you want it to happen. And, I think you recently moved, Dexter, so I'm sure you were hanging by your phone going, is this going to happen at the time we want it to happen? And it probably wasn't particularly clear for you.
It's etched, right? I mean, I know the point where we got the call to say it's gone through, right? And it's kind of, I drive past it nearly every day and I still get, kind of emotionally it comes back. That's the point when you you settled. But yeah, it was a kind of nerve-wracking hour or whatever it was, waiting for a payment to go through.
Yeah, and that's right. I know there's so many instances of settlements getting rescheduled or not happening, and then you've got all the nightmare implications of that, of removal lists and so forth. So, but we're part of an ecosystem. So
I actually remember, though, from a security perspective, the thing that was really concerning to me was I kept getting reminders from my conveyancer, the estate agent, everybody to keep saying, keep checking the account details. If you get an email from us to say, that the details have changed, call me first, right? Yeah. And it was like really scary because you're talking about, sizable, probably the biggest amount you've ever kind of had to leave your bank account ever in your life, right? And it was pretty nerve-wracking.
I think to your point, it is probably the most emotionally charged financial transaction most people conduct. I mean, the good news is you've got really strong conveyancer and lawyers in this market who do this time and time again. So really, they're our core customer base. So we're trying to support them in delivering a far better outcome to people buying and selling houses. And there's so many. I think you just touched on a couple, but there's so many problems to solve, so many opportunities to deliver a better service, deliver a more secure, a more seamless service to lawyers, conveyancers, and ultimately to the buyers and sellers of houses. So that's why we entered the market. We entered the market because we feel we can make a difference. We're not a legacy provider. We've got some, contemporary technology and some great design thinkers that we believe that we can deliver a great offer.
Okay, awesome. So look, let's talk about, I guess, the challenges of coming into this market. A lot has been documented. Just generically the challenges of fintech. Trying to either one, collaborate with big four banks, or two, try and compete with them. Now, that's really tough to go and compete against a monopoly. I mean, that's absolutely, that's like a challenge nobody would, you'd be mad to try and take it on. Is this just a startup, or have you got some backers behind you to really challenge this?
Yeah, well, I'm very fortunate that we have two, and I'll touch on the challenges that we've faced into, and some of which we've overcome. More to follow, but really encouraged with our progress so far. We've got two shareholders. We've got the ASX, and we've got the InfoTrack group of companies. So ASX, most people are familiar with. They do more than hold the share market, so they're really great expertise in running critical infrastructure, which obviously Sympli provides. And then the InfoTrack family of companies are the leading provider of platforms that lawyers and conveyancers use to run their businesses. So the DNA that we've got in our business is all about, safety, security of infrastructure, and then deploying really market leading customer platforms.
Right.
So with a combination of those two. So we've been very fortunate and with the support of those shareholders and the long-term view they take of this market.
Yeah.
Because you're right, it is challenging. It's challenging to enter because we've got to, as I mentioned earlier, we've got to build those connections to banks, got to build those connections, nationally into different land registries and so on. So probably the biggest challenge, to be blunt, has been finalizing the bank connections. I'm sure other speakers on Dexter have talked to you about that, but and having worked at a big bank myself, I know the challenges of getting programs off the ground, getting them delivered, and in the midst of a lot of the work that we were doing over the last 3 years, the Royal Commission happened. Every bank had their particular challenges, so that's been a real challenge. But I'm really pleased to say we're at the back end of that now. We're just about to conclude our final major bank connection.
Right.
That's been tough work.
I would assume then, given all of these challenges and the complexity and the infrastructure, that the barriers to entry into this space are going to be pretty high.
Yeah, they are because you've got to get the connections in place first to build your network. Then you've got to have a credible offer that customers really want to use, and then you've got to go acquire customers and make sure you're doing that securely.
Yeah.
So the really good news, I think, for us is, as I said, we've finalized the connection part of our network, so that's really good. We've had great feedback from customers on our platform, so we think that's a winning proposition. And then the regulatory environment, we've been in the press a little bit over the last week that we're getting really strong government support to introduce competition, because it does need competition reform. So the analogy I give to people is, if you think of two telcos, we need to have customers, if they subscribe to us, that they can talk to a subscriber of the other player in the market. So we call that interoperability.
Right.
So that's getting strong government support. And once that's deployed, then really it's any customer can have real choice. And that's why we're here.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about the backing that you've got in InfoTrack. If I was to make a comparison, they're essentially to the legal and conveyancing industry what Xero is to the accounting industry. That must be a really, kind of great partnership to have in terms of distribution.
Absolutely. So I think one of the key areas we want to focus in on is how do we deliver our services to where our customers live. And so via kind of InfoTrack and other members of the family, we think we can do that. We think we can deliver, security and seamlessness into the platform where conveyancers and lawyers spend their time. And we'll do that with other providers. There are other big players in the market as well. But in our instance, one way to think about it is we can be invisible. If we can just let the magic happen and do that with confidence and do that seamlessly, then what we're giving is what really conveyancers and lawyers appreciate and value, which is kind of time back to do their job and confidence that they're going to deliver the service securely to their customers. So I think with the design focus that we've got and the connections that we've got, particularly via kind of InfoTrack, I think that gives us a really strong advantage to distribute that nationally across Australia, which is hugely exciting.
It is. And look, I'm going to thank you because you had the opportunity there to drop the word frictionless and you didn't.
Yeah, we should be playing bingo. Really, I'm sure some people
that is
are.
the most eloquent description or kind of of frictionless that I think I've ever heard.
I'll take that.
No, it hasn't been a come in, open the doors and kind of business day one. I think you simply launched in 2018. Where's the business at now in terms of kind of people, locations? Have you got kind of the product out in market yet?
Yeah. So the way I'd describe it is we're kind of exiting the foundation phase, which took longer than we thought for the reasons I talked about. We're now 100 people, growing to about 130 by middle of next year and then beyond. We're predominantly based in Sydney, but we do have interstate Sympli family members who represent us in key states because that's where our customers are. We have a platform that's live, that's being used in our two main kind of customer bases. So with banks, we're connected to them. One of the major banks is using us extensively in one of their mortgage processes, which is great. And then we've got our early adopter customers in the practitioner space, the lawyers and conveyancer space, which are really helping us drive the look and feel of the platform, making sure it's delivering the efficiencies that we want. So we're in a good spot. The platform performance and feedback is really encouraging. And so really now, as we exit kind of foundation, we're now about kind of concluding the build, enhancing the performance and the feedback, and then it's all about the scale. So we're in a good spot, and as I mentioned earlier, we've got the shareholders take a really positive view of the long-term opportunity in the market here. So whilst it's been a journey so far, I think the real game is afoot now. It's about building that presence in the market and adding more and more value to customers.
Yeah. So when you kind of look back over, the kind of journey so far, what would you say have been the biggest challenges to date?
Without a doubt, the connecting to the major banks. I think that's taken persistence and ultimately collaboration. We're here to help them. But as we all know, and again, I worked at Westpac for a number of years, executing projects and programs of work against a multitude of priorities is tough. So I think, that's been a challenge, but also one of the biggest wins we've had, because that's the final piece of our connection network puzzle. So that being done has been brilliant. And then finding the right space with the regulatory environment. So, both collaborating and challenging such that we get an environment where competition can flourish. So I think that's been that continues to be a strong focus for me, certainly in the team, is to make sure that we're telling the story that people understand about why competition is important and how creating that competition reform allows us to enter the market in a meaningful way. So we're in a better spot today than we've ever been in, but it hasn't been easy for sure.
And there certainly seems to be a lot more government support, whether you've got Senator Bragg, Victor Dominello, I think, does a great job at New South Wales Gov as well. What's your kind of general sense as to the appetite now for fintech and digital innovation within financial services from government and from politicians?
Yeah, I look, and I spent a little bit of time in New South Wales government at Treasury myself, so I saw it from the inside that there is absolute support for innovation that delivers value for customers and businesses. So if you can demonstrate you're doing that, I think you've got really strong reception. So there's been nothing that's challenged that view from my side. I think it's been really strong support because what we say we can deliver and what we've demonstrated with our build to date is credible. So I think I've been really impressed with the level of focus and support from government, and I'm sure that's a common story. But like most other organizations, again, there's a whole bunch of priorities that the government has to deliver against. If you think about the last year and all the challenges that COVID has presented, I'm just amazed that Minister Dominello and his team have managed to carve out enough time to progress the agenda in the space that we're in. I think that's just a fantastic demonstration of support, and we're really appreciative of that. And ultimately, I think they see the value. They see the value in efficiencies for businesses that then they can grow. So I think it's all about growth and productivity, really, isn't it? So as long as you can demonstrate that, I think you'll get an open ear.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned Westpac there. So I don't know if you remember, but it was actually 3 years ago this week that you and I caught up at Cybos. And I think you just left Westpac, and we'd had a coffee, and I actually remember the message that you sent me introducing yourself, and I'm sure you said something like, "I'm not like other bankers."
You sure it was bankers, though, right?
And I thought, all right, I'll catch up with the guy. And I think at the end, I turned around and said, "Yeah, absolutely." and hence a kind of a friendship was born. You'd kind of taken on the advice that I think I'd given you at the time, which was, hey, you're not going to make the switch from Westpac to a kind of 2-person startup, and it's really gratifying to see you've kind of gone on that journey and taken those steps to now kind of get into the space that you really wanted to play. What's your advice for the kind of leaders in large banks and financial institutions who really want to make a similar move?
Yeah, and I do recall the coffee, and I do value the advice you gave, Dexter, and making the time. Look, it was interesting when I left Westpac. I definitely had the vision to I wanted to make an impact. I suppose that was and in a big bank, it's hard sometimes to see the impact you make personally, and it's hard to find, I guess, reason and meaning in that if you don't see that consistently. So that was what attracted me into the fintech space, and I felt I could add value. And I think my advice really for other kind of leaders or professionals looking to make that move is there's a couple of things. There's number one, kind of understand the space, and it's diverse, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's lots of different organizations trying to solve different problems. So understand the space, understand the people that operate within it. So spend some time exploring and discovering the space, and then equally understand yourself. What is it that your experience and capabilities? How would they add value? How could you step into a space that is tangibly different? How I spend my time now versus how I used to spend it back is completely different.
Yeah.
So and I love it, but it's different and it doesn't suit everyone. So I think it's how do you kind of demonstrate, explore it so you understand it, and then analyze yourself, get feedback from others about the value that they've seen other people stepping into the space and what they've done. So if you can find some role models, of which there are plenty, then and then there's a huge network of people who I'm sure would welcome people who can add value. I mean, in the market today, that is clearly a challenge. So I think there's opportunity there, but if you can align kind of the value that you can bring with the company's values and with the problem they're trying to solve, then there's undoubted opportunity here. The reverse is also true. If you don't do that research, if you don't clearly understand what you're bringing, then you're destined probably to be on a fruitless journey. But I speak about kind of our business. We're always on the lookout for talented professionals who can add value. So it's aligning that, aligning the problem that needs to be solved and the skills that can solve it.
Yeah, I think that you've touched on something there that I think is one of the biggest challenges for growing startup and scale up businesses is we get this term kind of adding value, as if it's kind of binary, right? You either add value or you don't. But there's also the part that people can actually create havoc and destruction as well. And I think it's that's the biggest difference, I think, when you kind of come from large kind of corporate environment into the the kind of startup world is you're either adding value or that's it, right? There's no other outcome other than you're adding value, because if you're not, the reality is you're likely to be causing mayhem and destruction.
Yeah, and I think it's very visible, isn't it? So it's very visible in an organization what happens, and that's harder to be visible in a bigger 30,000 strong workforce. So I think people know. So that's why I love it, because you get the feedback straight away. You see the impact, whether it's you're deploying technology release and you see the platform enhance. You see if you made a prioritization decision, you see the impact of that. And people either gravitate towards that and love it and flourish, or they don't.
Yeah.
And I think that's why back to kind of knowing yourself. That's really important, because if you really treat yourself with what parts of a role that you really love and you can really put all your passion and your energy into, then of course you'll succeed. But it's not just, the term fintech covers such a broad variety of companies that, you got to pick the right one that aligns with what you value and where you can deliver.
Yeah. So at 100 people, you're at that kind of critical stage now where, this is where the kind of growing pains start to kind of really show. What is it that you're trying to do around, and what's the kind of culture that you're building at Sympli as you kind of move into this next phase?
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard this before, but I definitely think culture trumps strategy. So we've got to have a culture that attracts, retains, and grows the right people. So for me, a couple of our values capture it as well as anything. It's number one, we have a value that says we are the Sympli family. So we support each other, we encourage each other. Families you want to spend time with. Sometimes you drive each other crazy, but you've got each other's back. So, that's one of the key values. We want people who want to join, collaborate, deliver, and challenge each other. And the next value is, we're determined to deliver simplicity for our customers. So that's why we exist. So the culture of support, collaboration, but equally delivery, delivery for customers. So that's the type of culture that we're, nourishing and flourishing and trying to attract people that add their own uniqueness to that. So we've got a real array of skills, which is fantastic to see.
How do you go about bringing in the right people?
I have to say it's hard, Dexter, and you know that as well as anyone. I think some of it where we're continually trying to be better is be clear on what we stand for. Be clear on what we stand for and how we operate and why someone would want to come here. So we're a disruptor. It's a challenging market, but you can make a real difference. So if you're attracted to that, and we don't have enormous procedures of how to get things done. So we need someone who can come in and know and contribute and be really invigorated by the challenges. So I think we've got sharper and sharper on that, and I'm sure we will continue to do so.
Yeah.
So that's probably it. Be really clear on what we stand for and where people can make a difference. I think that's one of the key things.
That word's been used a lot in fintech, disruption, and oftentimes, when I've looked at some of the businesses that have been claiming to be disruptors, I would liken them to the kind of disruptive bully at school at the back of the class that would just shout and scream and cause mayhem and screw things up for everybody else. Then you've got the real disruptors, who are those that are kind of quietly going about their business, actually affecting change. And it kind of strikes me that, there's certainly what I've seen in people, certainly in my network, has been this move away from the kind of noisy disruptor to the one that's quietly going about business. And there's a few factors that kind of, that tend to resonate. One is that they've got a clear problem, that they've identified. 2, there's a clear market opportunity. And 3, they've got, the backing to actually be successful. Look, I guess the only other thing would be the kind of, the people that they're working with as well. It seems to me that, Sympli's got all of those kind of elements that are there to give somebody, real career fulfillment and a real kind of chance of actually, as you said, making an impact and kind of creating their legacy.
Yeah, I would absolutely. I think on all those factors, clearly there's a problem to solve here. We've got one provider in the market who's operating from a legacy perspective. So we're coming in with different ways of how we help customers. We've got 2 shareholders take a really long-term view of the success of the market. And I think to your point, which I do understand what you say about kind of the noisiness of disruptors, because ultimately we operate, I'm sure this is on your bingo card, we operate in an ecosystem, right? So we have to work in partnership with banks, with land registries, with the conveyancer community, with the lawyer community, with our regulators. So we've got to do that in a way that of course, every partnership you have disagreements, but we've got to provide a service that gives, everyday Australians who buy and sell houses, confidence and security that's going to happen really well. So, that's why probably we're not, singing from the rooftops a lot. We're just getting on with business and building an offer.
Well, if you think back to, talk about Cybos 2018, I mean, the industry it seemed like it was in disarray back then, right? And there was a lot of, fighting around banks, and, it was not, the mood was not good. You kind of fast forward to 2021, and, we're seeing the big four banks collaborate with startups. We're seeing a far healthier ecosystem. We're seeing, this kind of view that, all ships rise with the tide. And I've got to say, it's, it is an ecosystem, right? It's an economy where we're all dependent upon each other.
That's right.
Nobody is ever going to take out the big four banks, right? It's not going to happen. And if it does, it's actually not good for Australians, and it's not good for the economy. So I think it's
just to build on that, I think there's, the banks have problems they need help solving.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes, that's certainly very true for ourselves. How we can help banks deliver their mortgage processes more efficiently, how we can help them with information that allows them to communicate with their customers in a better way, a quicker way, a more confident way. And I think most of the kind of more, I think that view of partnership, that view of, if you're keenly focused on the problem, someone's going to benefit from that. Now, not every fintech is the big bank's best friend, but certainly for us, they're partners, right? They're, in one hand, they're a partner for us because they facilitate, the mortgage settlement side of things, and then the other side of it, they're a customer of ours. So we've got to do that in a way where we demonstrate value to them. And I think that's probably the biggest change I've observed over the last 3 years. There's more and more evidence of companies making a difference.
Yeah.
Making a difference. So now it's not a conceptual discussion anymore. You've got flourishing companies employing people, making a difference in their markets. And I think all of that evidence just goes to, all right, well, if you can articulate your case and you can show how it can make a difference to customers, again, much like we talked about the government position earlier, I think the banks likewise are more open to that than they've ever been. They still suffer, I think, from the challenge of prioritizing delivery. I don't think that's ever going away.
Yeah. When you look at the industry now, which fintech has got you most excited, Philip?
Well, given we're in the property community, I've got to focus on one there. I have to commend the team at Athena for what they've done and how they've gone about it and built the business from, again, I remember, I was on the board of the new payments platform with Michael Starkey back in the day, 2017, 2018, and to from where they are now to then is quite incredible, and they're making a difference. And you see the ripple effect of what they've managed to do and attracted other companies in the market, and attracted and made the banks want to lift their game. Now, we're one of the recipients of the benefit of that, because banks are now looking, wow, I need to improve my mortgage processes. So guess what? And then we go, we can help you with that. So it's amazing the positive benefits of competition, and that's, again, back to why we exist. And you don't really know sometimes if you throw the stone in the water where those ripples are going to go. So I have to say, for me, they're just going to go from strength to strength. So full credit to them.
Awesome. So when you look at this next kind of 12 months, Philip, what can we expect from Sympli?
We've got an incredibly exciting 12 months ahead. If I categorize it, moving from foundation, so concluding our connections, we're now really into the finalization of build. So we've got build out the platform, so more capability. That gives us the ability to get more customers. That gives us the ability to process more transactions and support more consumers and businesses in the market. That allows us then to grow the team. And if I combine that over the next 12 months, we'll have a number of milestones that demonstrate, increasing customers, increasing capability, increasing transactions. If I combine that with the government support for competition reform, then really as we kind of exit the next 12 months into that scaling phase where really it's on, it's all about then us really demonstrating that we've got the best offer in market and looking to acquire as many customers as we can. So the next 12 months, hugely exciting. Can't wait.
Awesome. What's the best way for people to kind of reach out if they're interested in careers at Sympli?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, Philip Joyce. Also, have a look at the website, www.sympli.com.au. Please reach out. We're always open to a conversation with good people. Love to connect.
Awesome. Philip, it's been fantastic to have you on the show, and thanks so much for joining me.
Why did it take so long?
I don't know. I'm sure I asked you about 8 months at the beginning of this year, and you said wait until I've got my feet under the table. So they were
that's
truly
true. No, it's good to talk, Dexter. I'm a big fan of the show, so thanks for having me on.
And you can connect with me, Dexter Cousins, on LinkedIn and Twitter. For early access to new shows and updates on the latest exclusive opportunities through Tier 1 people, subscribe to our newsletter by visiting the Fintech Chatter page on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, remember to press follow on your favorite podcast player, and please consider leaving us a review. It really does help me in bringing in great guests and help fintech fans like you discover the show. Fintech Chatter is presented by Tier 1 people, leaders in fintech executive search. We'll help you launch, scale, and innovate by delivering world-class talent. And you can find out more at tier1people.com. Until the next episode, stay safe